And today I'm gonna talk a little bit about data ecosystem and culture. And the way, I think it has been established by Mr. Xiamen already about the fact that data has actually played a very crucial role in kind of transforming the industry. And the way I plan to connect the stories by share you a little bit about the journey, right? Maybe what we've seen in the media is like all the success stories, but I plan actually to share the bad and the uglies as well. The journey of like how our company actually managed to do the transformations and managed to actually build data ecosystem. Please, next slide, please. Yeah, a little bit about this, maybe 10 seconds of this, but Gojek is a super app. We started actually as a call center into 2010, right? Where, you know, if you call Gojek, it takes maybe 2 or 3 hours until we can get the ride. And I think we became like we had a digitalization in 2015, right? Where we started actually to launch the app. And I think ever since we've seen a very steep growth curve. It is so steep that for us, it's actually very difficult just to rely a lot on the kind of like adding more resources to that one. So we actually managed to go through all the pain point of scaling up itself. Now we are like in totality, GoTo after merger with Tokopedia, we are contributing to around 2% of the Indonesian GDP. So it's not insignificant. We're talking about 2.5 million actually drivers are with us and 500 merchants. So it's actually like a lot of like day-to-day livings depend on the platform. Please go ahead, please. And it's also like it contains a lot of products, so it creates its own headache actually in terms of data itself, which we will get to a little bit later. Yeah. Yes, this is just a little bit about me, but I think the takeaway from this slide is the fact that you know, like we started with the first data hire, one data hire was actually in 2015, but nowadays data itself we have around 150 people. We are so data obsessed. We have 150 people actually working on the data itself, out of like 700 engineering teams. So we are really investing in data because we know that data is actually the kind of strategic asset for us to grow really and to create values. Yeah, and this is a little bit like a good story, good nostalgic memory. Like in July 2015, we actually don't have data dictionary. So if you look at it, this is our data dictionary. It's a post-it, right? So the first data hire actually joined us. She asked the question, hey, what does it actually mean like by having a status booking flag of like 3 or 4, right? Nobody could answer it. So our engineers actually need to go into the code, looking the implementation itself, and then give an answer. So that's how kind of like an infant the data ecosystem back in 2015, right? A couple of years ahead, in 2000, oh, it doesn't have any, yeah, please, next please. I believe this is in 2017, right? So we don't have a lot of like a data dictionary. So we started to use Excel sheet in order to capture all the definitions within our system. It is very manual, but very effective. We call it actually post-note version 2 because this is a sort of like already the digital kind of upgrade of the kind of paper notes that we have, right? Next, please. And in February 2017, we started to be obsessed about documentation because it's like we are talking about like a lot of products, right? So we don't have a kind of good alignment in terms of the data, the definitions of the data. And we know for sure that if we don't align the data definitions, it's very difficult to use the data because you might intend to kind of calculate something, but we calculate it maybe wrongly because we don't have a single definition. So what we did is that we basically became really obsessed with documentation. So we started actually to put a lot of documentation in terms of how we kind of do the system, how do we define the model, how we instrument events, and so on and so forth. And fast forward to today, we are now basically integrating a lot of these kind of manual things that we did with, I call it like a modern data stacks actually, where we're able to just kind of go to a certain interface, browse the data, we look at the metadata of the columns that we have. We even are able to kind of track the lineage of the data because I think it's also very important, right? And I think although not mentioned over here, but we also have a lot of like other kind of data quality framework. So that just kind of to show how obsessed we are with the data. Next, please. So I guess the takeaway from this kind of particular section is that building data ecosystem is a journey, right? It is a never-ending mission actually for a company to build a kind of data structure because it involves a lot of aspects, right? We're not talking about technology only, but we're talking about a process, governance, people, technology, product as well. all need to evolve in order to be able to build an ecosystem. And for us, the mission statement is that our data should be available, reliable, and also observable. So that those are the kind of leading principle for us to be able to kind of push this kind of data ecosystem into our system. Now, we have the data, right? So what's next? So I think although there are many use cases, I'll just basically gonna focus on two kind of use cases at this moment. One is around how data could help us to support the decision making that we do, and how can we actually build machine learning powered products from the data that we have. Yeah. Decision support. Next, please. Our obsession again is that we want to basically shorten the distance between insight and decision maker, right? And the reason why this is important for us is because like we are living in a very competitive market. The market actually changes very dynamically, and we need to react fast, right? We don't want to kind of have a bottleneck between decision maker and kind of the insight itself, because by kind of like removing the boundaries, right, we're able to react faster to the market. And it is really like, you know, the joke when I say it's a matter of death and it's a matter of survival as well, for especially during the early period of Gojek back in the days, because we're literally living like a week on week, especially by looking at the bank account that we have. So we really need to react faster to the changing environment. This is one example, right, of how by democratizing data, right, and of course democratizing here also with some quotes. Of course there will be some proper governance, but what we try to do is that we want to democratize data to the business as well, so not only owned by data people. So what we try to do is that we basically like try to democratize data, and we try to be data informing decision making. This is a very interesting example from 2015 where we have this Go Shop. So before, when we started, we only have ride-hailing business, right? So we only have Ojek actually. And then we noticed when we basically basically Go Shop is a product where we can ask drivers to buy any products that we want from any stores. But I think what the business actually started to notice is that, hey, apparently 85% of those items are actually food, right? And then we started, okay, why don't we start like a food delivery product actually? Next, please. And in 2019, like after launching the kind of like a food delivery product, it became like largest app-based food delivery service in Southeast Asia. But the dynamic might be different now, but back in the days is that after we launched the product, we got a kind of like a big traction out of it. Another like a very recent examples, as you probably are all aware, like there is a new Mode Hemat in your app now. Mode Hemat is actually our affordability kind of like a product where especially the thesis over there is that by lowering the price, right, we can take a little bit like a longer time to deliver, shorter assortment. We'll be able to tap the kind of lower segments of the users that we have. And of course, I mean, we launched the product, please. And then we kind of measure it. We see what is the order per users over here. But as you notice, this data is actually not particularly very useful. And the reason for that is because we don't know whether this is attributed by the launch of the product itself, or is it because of the macro, kind of like a pandemic recovery, right? So what we did, next please, is that using the data that we have, because we're able to track the order per users like on a real-time basis, actually can have some kind of like a control environment. We launched in Bandung and Medan actually, the first pilot cities, and we actually are able to kind of like measure kind of the impact of the product launch itself by kind of observing the simulation scenario of like what would have happened if we launch Mode Hemat in the certain thesis, and what would have happened if we don't launch it, right? As such that we can actually really attribute that, hey, the increase in the number of orders that we basically observe are actually due to the launch of the new product. Next, please. Yeah, this is also, I'll probably like skip a lot of the slides because of the time. So this is like, again, another example of how we want to get to know like in which funnel actually we have a drop in our users, just to kind of illustrate how intimate and how deep we are actually in trying to understand the users itself from the available data that we have. This is an interesting one. So using the recent technologies, right, we're able actually to capture the user attributes. And what we're able to do is actually we can map it in three-dimensional space to be able to understand, hey, if you look at the dots over here, it represents like each of our users that we have. But we see opportunities because, for example, if we see GoFood users, which are essentially like very close similarity, has a like similarity with a GoRide user, but they haven't used GoRide yet, it becomes kind of like it becomes an actionable things for us to be able to nudge them in order to kind of cross-sell the products that we have. So this is actually what the kind of the recent advancement in data analytics can actually do for us as well. I think the time is up, so I'll probably make it very, very quickly. Maybe next, please. So these are just, again, another examples of how we use machine learning in order to kind of show relevant shortcut to our users. Maybe you can skip the slide. Next one, please. And again, this is we've built our in-house smart reply as well using the natural language processing. Really, and I think what I really like about this story, because it's really motivated by the fact that, hey, we want to be able to kind of ensure safety for drivers, right? Because what happens a lot is that they text while driving motorcycle, and that's actually very dangerous. So what we try to do is we try to create a shortcuts that understand as such that drivers could actually just like a tap, 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 and they can kind of like reply to customers. So it is actually has a sort of motives behind this product launch. Maybe you can skip. See if there is anything interesting. Maybe you can skip this one. Yes, maybe just one slide. Can we skip? Yes, a little bit. I think in the insurance industry, I do see that we are still at the very infancy in terms of adoptions of this technology, right? And I think no doubt, if I were to look into the futures, that this will be a very, like especially the recent advancement in large language model, for example, like ChatGPT, it will be part of our day-to-day life, right? So I think it opens up a lot of opportunities, especially to talk to our data in very human natural language. And I think, as mentioned as well, definitely in insurance industry, there's also a lot of opportunities in using the signals that we have in order to kind of detect risk, quantify risk, to understand risk a little bit better, and then also to do kind of portfolio risk assessment as well, and many more things, right? Yes, and I think my last slide, yes. This is a good timing, I think. Yeah, so I think a lot of like takeaways over here. Always start small. I think that will be probably my kind of takeaway from what I want to communicate from my slide. It is okay to course correct as we go. It is a journey once again, and I think, this might be true for tech industry, but we need to kind of have a pinch of salt interpreting the last point, but don't be afraid to fail, but try to fail fast, because only by that we can actually learn more and more things. Thank you so much.